Welcome to Ashley on CBD, your one-stop podcast where we drop the truth on all things CBD and maybe some pop culture too. Stick around as we delve deep into the practical health benefits of CBD for you.
Hello, everyone. Today's show, as always, is brought to you by Magic Immuna Tea. This is a great tasting new mushroom tea that I've been drinking for immune support, as well as it helps me have strong lungs, a healthy heart, and a good gut. It's also a neuro optimizer for your brain, which keeps me calm, gives me focused energy, no jitters. There's no caffeine in this beverage. It's packed with life, as they say. It contains 4 medicinal mushrooms, reishi, lion's mane, chaga, and cordyceps, as well as 12 other organic and natural adaptogens, including cacao and ginger and turmeric. Give it a try. Magic Immuna Tea. You can get it at packedwithlife.com. I'm drinking some right now on ice. Tastes great. You can feel the health right now. Get you some today at packedwithlife.com.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today is part 2 of a multi-part segment with Guy Stephen Needler, who is the author of The Origin Speaks, a direct dialogue with the ultimate creator. So hopefully you've listened to part 1. This one picks up right where part 1 leaves off. And we're going to have, like I said, more episodes coming up featuring Guy Needler and his and talk more about his perspective and his life experiences. So I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. It does, and I think it kind of speaks to another question I have. And I've talked to my son. My son is 18, and he's really spiritually, light years exponentially ahead of where I was at 18, and even where I am now. It's been a wonderful thing to be a part of his evolution. And one of the things I was talking about is this desire to the desire to progress, be in the physical without being the physical, and to move up while we're here on this planet. But we seem, the paradox that I'm having trouble with is, in my experience, it took me a long time to figure that out. So it's like, and I was put into the environment. I was going to church every Sunday as what my parents made me do. Maybe that's the issue. But I went through all of this training and guiding to be on the right path, but then I didn't get it. In fact, I kind of rebelled against it a little bit, and it's taken me a long time to get there. And I wonder, what's that, in terms of the experiences that while we're here, and how much time seems to pass where we don't get it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Most people don't get it at all.
Right. And many never get it, right?
And they're not supposed to sometimes, because they're supposed to be immersed in their incarnation. And that includes very evolved individuals as well, very evolved aspects. I could use the word soul, but soul, people tend to think of the word soul as being an individualized thing. Whereas we're actually, as an aspect, we are a smaller aspect of a larger sentience. So we're projected parts of it, so to speak. But in terms of what you've experienced a, shall we say, a potential for distraction or a potential for addiction, which can be classified in this instance as being religion, because it can be addictive, along with things like materialism, and status, and food and drugs. All of these things can be addictive, and link us to the physical. But the function of being stuck in a particular groove, so to speak, is something it's difficult to get out of. So moving out of that, because all the compelling things, like all the pressure from our peer group, from the pressure from our parents, the discussions that we have to suggest that what we're letting go is monumental. Well, it is in some way, but in other ways it's not. It is a way of persuading us to come back into this sort of fold, where we are not allowing ourselves to grow. and expand and understand the reasons behind why there's a particular religion, for example. And so moving away from that may feel negative to some people, but it's actually a positive thing, because it means you resisted temptation, you resisted a karmic link, you resisted being constrained, you resisted the possibility of not being able to grow and expand. So you've moved from one reality or event space to another one, which is brilliant, and the number of times that we all experience these junctures where, okay, which part of me is going to go that way versus that way? It's incredible. And so you start to realize there's thousands of different versions of us who are experiencing different aspects of a particular life we could have had, but we chose not to, so to speak.
It's really an awesome conversation. Do you think, do you see ourselves kind of as being similar to the ancient explorers, except obviously on behalf of Origin? And we're, if so, what are the ideal circumstances for us to achieve that soul fulfillment in this incarnation?
We are, if I sort of categorize it, I would say that we are, I think explorers is a good way to say it. We are experiencing that which, well, the source is experiencing that which the origin can't experience because it's too big. Our true energetic selves or higher selves or Godhead or oversoul, all those words mean the same thing, by the way, are experiencing things that the source can't experience because it's too big. And we're experiencing the details that our true energetic selves or higher selves can't experience because it's too big. So you start to understand that we're working with the sort of electro-microscopic detail of an environment that we call the multiverse, and all of the things that could happen within it, which also includes things like interaction with other entities that are in there, disincarnate or incarnate, and the environments and the situations we can get ourselves in whilst we're interacting with those others. So yeah, we're sort of exploring every particular perceivable aspect of an environment. This particular environment is a really low frequency environment. It's called the physical universe, one of lots of different universes in the multiverse. In a static state, there's lots of parallel versions, of course, as well. But in essence, we seek out every particular aspect of how we could experience this environment. So we don't just go to the moon, for instance. We go to the moon and in different ways. We walk on the surface in different ways. We go in different vehicles. We go in different times. We go in different opportunities. We have different preconceptions. We have different understandings. We have different experiences. And this creates a plethora of opportunities to experience in in-depth ways that our higher selves couldn't, that source couldn't, and origin couldn't. So yeah, we are explorers. Cutting to it again, yeah, definitely, we are explorers.
So on that point, I guess evolving a little bit further, I think this book was written, according to my notes, I think 2012 to 2015. And at that time, I noted here that the Origin was considering making changes that would speed up the perception of progression so that people would be able to feel more positive reinforcement of the progress from lower to higher frequencies. Also, there's another statement in there that only when man's frequencies are much higher than now can incarnate man truly know. So the question I have for you, and then there was a third point, also that there was some significance to having a 10% level of energetic mankind versus the backfill, non-energetic people. So given those kind of those clues, do you think changes have been made since you wrote this book? And if so, how, what do you think about
when I look back throughout my life, I noticed that time has speeded up. Even from the age of 7, I spotted it speeding up. Other people have done it as well. So I'm not in sort of the only individual on the planet. There's lots of other people who have noticed what we classify as time, the passage of events. It has speeded up, and it has speeded up. And somebody asked me the question for one of my World Sat Sangs, which is like a get together of minds and asking you questions, and I channel some answers. What is a day now? And my understanding is a day is actually 17 old hours. So what we think is 24 hours is actually 17 old hours. So
Wow.
the old hours from about 150 years ago, for example. and so we are moving forwards, and at the time I was writing or channeling the work that became the book, The Origin Speaks, we were on a pretty good trajectory. We were going up quite quickly. Our sort of normal sawtooth of up and downs in the frequencies was still going up nicely, but we got a bit complacent. We thought we could just sit back and let it happen, and as a result of that, we started to drop down the frequencies. So although things have speeded up and people know it, we've also gone back down the other way. And in the process, I've noticed that the sawtooth profile is a bit different. We do have little sawtooths. We have these big teeth that you sort of see in the old pit saws. If it was to sort of properly saw wood with their hands, and one would be in a pit at the bottom, one would be at the top, and you'd saw a plank of wood manually with your hands. And there'd be big teeth and little teeth on the big teeth, and then a big tooth and little teeth on the big teeth. Well, we've gone right down one of these big teeth. And so some of us have noticed not just the increase in frequencies. We were going great up until about 2012, 2013, but around 2017, 18, we've started to drop down again. And we can see how that drop has happened by the way we were all responding to various different things that are happening around the world, specifically how we've allowed particular individuals to lead us.
Right.
When they're not capable, basically, and we're not capable of allowing us to nurture and move forwards. And as a result of that, the lower frequency individuals, those who aren't so evolved, and the backfill people have come in. But to expand on the backfill people, the percentage is much higher than 10% now. It's almost 50%, if not 50% actually. And you can tell because there's nothing wrong with backfill people. There's a different sort of, so I call them different soul group. They're different quality of sentience compared to the sentience that those aspects or souls that are the normal sort of human being soul, which is a higher level of quality of sentience than what we are now. I'm probably mixing my words up now, but basically their quality of sentience is, think of it like gold. We would be like 50 karat gold if there's such a thing as 50 karat gold. Well, they're about 24 karat gold, and that's where they are. And they've only just been given the opportunity to incarnate and experience individualized free will. So they really don't know what to do with it, and they don't have any respect for the environment, for the people around them, for themselves sometimes, and this is a shame, because they've got a really wonderful opportunity to experience massive acceleration in their evolution, but they don't know how to do that, because individualized free will is something that they've never experienced before. And what's happening now is that there's a number of individuals who've moved up a level. Now, we observe that as being, I haven't seen such and such in 2 years, but for etc. And the reality is they're still there, but we don't see them, or we don't bump into them, or we don't relate to them anymore, because they've moved up a level, and they would see us and those individuals on their own level, but because we're staying on a different level, we can't see them. So we can't see a frequency upwards where there's other entities, other incarnate vehicles or body types, or that come from different locations within the galaxy and the universe. But we can see those below us. And so there's a lot of people have moved on. A lot of people have ascended individually. And as a result of that, there's been a lot more of these backfill souls been allowed to incarnate. And it's only been a lot of these have been also walk-ins as well, which is when one soul can walk into another body under agreement. And some of them have been only spotted, only sort of visible, spottable, only visible as a function of them becoming mature. And so it's so that the sort of acceleration in the number of or percentage of these individuals is phenomenal, actually.
Now, did they come? And forgive me if this is in one of the other the books, or if I've missed it, perhaps. But did the backfill people come also from Source Entity 1, and we're coming from the same? So what's the reason why we're all not, I guess, on the same goal of trying to better and move up the frequencies, and they're not? Well,
they are, but they're not, but because they're a different quality of sentience, they just don't see the the need for it, basically.
I see.
I mean, they're in between the human and the animal level of aspect or soul.
Okay.
And they've most of their incarnations have been into bodies or vehicle types that are, shall I say, communion based, so collective based. So they haven't had the ability to be individualized at all. All they've had is whatever I do for the collective, and the collective does for me.
And when I shared this with my son, it was really interesting because he said for years, he said to me for years, he's like, Dad, I'm not sure that this person, give or take, just depending on a certain situation. He's like, Dad, I'm not sure this person's real. And, when I shared this part of your story with him, he's first of all, he's dying to read the book. So he's next. But he's like, this just proves I see this, Dad. So it's really interesting to me. One of the other points here was that we're in a cycle. Like, I think it was like Source Entity 1 has just started, and we're in a cycle with this being the third time. The
evolutionary cycle.
Yeah. And the energies will fully be able to allow to be fully commune with their creator. Right. So is that, I guess, first of all, this was 2012, 2015 timeframe when this was happening. Is this like what would in religious terms be referred to as the rapture? Do those things synchronize in any way, or is it just you shouldn't try to put them together?
Now, the rapture is a way of describing the Kundalini effect, or samadhi, or transcendentalism. When you go back into being connected with your true energetic self, as in communing with that, you start to remember everything that you were, all your experiences. Your ability to communicate becomes expansively quick. It's the slow way we exist now becomes washed away totally. So that's what that's describing. But there's also the true energetic selves moving back into the source and becoming one with source, reintegrating those little fragmented parts of sentience into the bigger sentience. So the cycle that I was describing, or was given the information for in Origin Speaks, was really describing the evolutionary cycle based upon the source occupying an area of or volume of space within the origin, within its creator, with its sentience, creating its own structure, separating it into half, and half of that would be structure for it as an environment, and some other bits of it would be us, so to speak, and it would understand that, and it would work with the rest of it. But when it's done that, the only reason it's done that is because we've all evolved, we've all experienced everything. We've moved beyond incarnation, we've moved beyond the need to experience all the universes and all their different frequential states, and we've gone back into being in full communion with our true energetic self. And then we've got this situation where the two entities themselves all go back into communion with the source. When that happens, the source is finished understanding that particular volume of space that it's occupying with its sentience within the origin. The origin then obviously benefits from that. That process of experiencing all that is a cycle, an evolutionary cycle. And so we have the expansion of sentience, which is the sentience moves from one location to another location. It populates it, uses or commandeers a body of energy. It then does something with it to destruct it, to compartmentalize it, separates out its sentience, little individual units, and says, experience that in every way you can do. It creates another cycle. So the gathering in of its sentience and it all coming back into communion is classified in Hindu text, I found out later, as the universe breathing in.
Mm-hmm.
Source moves, repopulates, the universe breathes out. And when I found this out by reading literally a few lines of text from a book by a chap called Yogi Ramachakara, who was in Chicago back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he described this, I thought, this is exactly what I'm experiencing in terms of how it's being described by the source. So we go through an evolutionary cycle. This is the third one, and it's significantly faster than the first one. And the second one was significantly faster than the first one as well. But as we move through these cycles, they get faster and faster and faster because we're experiencing and understanding how to experience faster and faster. And so right now, an evolutionary cycle probably lasts several billennia or trillennia, if you want to call it that, if you don't want to use time as a metric. But eventually it'll be like that. So, and then that'll be the same with the other source entities that are moving around the origin. And so when all of that volume of space that the origin wants us all to understand is understood through all those different evolutionary cycles, you're basically mapping out and understanding and working with and sometimes even manipulating or creating with this environment as part of the origin that the sources are populated, then it becomes a whole new ball game, and everything goes into a different level and starts again at a higher level.
So on that, I guess, kind of expanding from that, we the choice, like one of the big points that you make is that we make a choice to incarnate or not, right? So, and in your case, and specifically, it's even more different because of you being of Om energy, which is a whole nother topic that I want to talk about, but maybe not right now. The question about our choices.
There's a book being written on that right now.
Oh, good. Again, a whole nother fascinating, we're not going to have enough time to get into that today, maybe, but hopefully we can do another call because I'd love to keep getting to know you even. So when we choose to incarnate, we choose what aspect based on environment, geography, family, education, local role, and then the challenges that we want to experience. My question there, I guess, is why would one want to experience something like being in a starving tribe in Africa?
Because it's there.
Because it has to be understood? Because it has to be explored?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a... Interestingly enough, when I'm going to country drop here. When I go to China or India, they say, "Why are we experiencing all these problems? Why am I experiencing a hard life? Why am I doing this? Because you chose it." "Why did I choose it?" "Because you chose it." "Yeah, but I want a nice life." "Yes, but you can have a nice life, but it's unbalanced to have just what you classify in human terms as being the good life."
It doesn't work that way.
It's not balanced. It's not balanced. We can't evolve by experiencing significantly acute linearity. We have to be, volumetric in our understanding, in our experiencing, and that's the only way we evolve properly, is by experiencing every perceivable aspect of what can be experienced in a number of different ways, which allows us to understand it and master it. And then once we've mastered it, we can move on. But that's the reason for it, really. So why would we want to experience having cancer? Because we want to experience the emotions, we want to experience the bodily pain, we want to experience the changes within us, we want to experience how our friends react to us, how our parents react to us, how our children react to us, how our partners react to us. We want to experience all these strange emotions about, that our existence is going to be terminated. Clearly, it's not. It's just this is just a vehicle we use temporarily. But we forget about that because the process of being involved with a vehicle at a low frequency creates a level of separation associated with it's basically bandwidth, communicative bandwidth, and the creation of an individualized but temporary personality we call the ego. And so all of this is part of it. It's isolation is part of it. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, I'm experiencing this, I'm experiencing that. Why have I got to experience this? Because we chose it. It seems completely bizarre to us as a human being that we want to experience having our legs cut off, for instance, in a car accident. But from a higher perspective, cool, that'll be fun. What? Mm-hmm. I can remember that this is interesting. I can remember 30 years ago being in a car accident, a really quite dramatic car accident, and I hit a lamppost at 70 miles an hour. And
wow,
why I did it, I don't understand. But when it was happening, I was out of body, and I remember thinking, this won't hurt for long. It's not a problem. And then I woke up, and the lamp. I hit a lamppost. The lamppost had invaded the car. The bolts that held the two front parts of the seat down snapped. I went in the back of the car. When I woke up, the lamppost was there in the car, mm-hmm. and I was on the back seat. So that's how far the car bent like a banana around it.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, this is what it's like to break your leg. Now, isn't that a strange thought? Mm-hmm. It's not a logical thought for a human being to have. I mean, any human being, irrespective of what the soul type is or the energy is sorted, because this is the way we normally respond when we're energetic. Mm-hmm. Quite clearly, I was still thinking in those terms at that point in time. This is what it's like to have a leg broken in two places, and my eye half hanging out of my face, and all those sorts of things. Because it's the experience that counts. We don't consider at all when we're energetic anything to do with the emotional content surrounding being human. This is going to be an interesting thing to experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember one particular memory of an incarnation when I went back. I didn't realize this, energetically, to a group of people I was working with in the Middle Ages. And they looked at me and said, "But you've just died." "Have I?" "Yes." "Oh, yes, I was hung, drawn and quartered for being a witch." It wasn't so bad. You can't have those feelings as a human being. They've got to be from a higher level. And the higher level is, we know that we've perpetuated. We are sentient beyond the physical, in any shape of physical. And so we perpetuate it ad infinitum. And when you know that, whatever happens to the body is not a problem. Think of Groundhog Day.
Right.
At the end of the day, he knew he was going to survive. So he threw himself in front of a car and did other bits and pieces to see what would happen.
So I guess on that topic, kinda, but it's sorry if I'm jumping around here a little bit, but it all relates together in my
randomness mind. Randomness has got structure in its own right.
So what about, so the true energetic self chooses to incarnate. The idea is to get a slingshot of evolutionary progression as a result of that incarnation, so we can evolve faster and move up. What about the love of others, that, like with your beloved wife Anne, which may be different because I think you guys were your soulmates and you're part of the same energy. But what about love of others that aren't part of your same energy, and where does that go, or how does that exist or transcend this change?
If you take everything back to the origin, then we're all part of the origin. So we're all the same thing anyway, irrespective of how we've been individualized. We're all part of the origin, irrespective of how our particular group of energies ended up being. We're all part of the origin. But most individuals are part of the source because we're in this particular environment that the source has created. So we're all the same thing anyway, really. It's just that we think in individualized terms because we've got this low frequency existence and low bandwidth of communicative ability, which makes us feel that we are just a human body. So when we start to, and we do miss, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nobody, irrespective of their level of evolution and their level of connectivity on Earth, is beyond feeling things like bereavement, doubt, anxiety, worry, concern. All of these things are there because they're supposed to be there. That's what the whole point is to experience all of these things that we don't normally experience in the environment that we're normally in. Doesn't mean they're nice when we're here because we don't understand that it's just a game when we're in the energetic. But it does make you sort of start to realize that you never lose anybody. Because we're thinking in human terms, we do feel the loss. It's the companionship, the camaraderie that we miss, really. We're here in a sticky situation. We incarnate for a few years, and it's hard work. And it's nice to have people around us who understand us and who can work with us in harmony with us, irrespective of whether they understand the greater reality or not. It's just nice to have those individuals around us because we seek communion. At the end of the day, we all seek communion, and that's why people group together in things like football clubs where they support golfers or cyclists or tennis players or whatever. They want to be together with a common thought process and understanding. Even gangs, they want to group together with people or individuals or souls who are of the same resonant frequency.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I could talk to you for hours more. I want to be respectful of your time. We scheduled 1 hour. Would you be willing to join me again at another point when you're free? Because I've got a lot more.
Yeah, sure. We'll work out some time and we'll get together again. And you can create a whole bunch of different questions.
It comes down to it. What I'm excited about is, and what I'll leave, and we'll wrap up this episode with, was what you say in your text is that anyone reading this information will become more enlightened, whether or not they believe the information presented here or not. And that's really big and really what I'm trying to help promote, because I don't have maybe the global platform that other people do, but I'm trying to get there because I want to tell the truth about a lot of different things. And this is very important to me. And I've seen it play out in my life very positively in a lot of different ways. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Well, remember, the books aren't me. I'm just the middleman. I'll just channel the information. And I hope to understand some part of it as well. In the process, I do understand a bit of it. But the thing is, it's there. The energies within the books are there, and people have told me they've received the downloads. They've said, I've been sitting there vibrating, and it's there. And that just depends on their response depends on their own frequency level in terms of how sort of marked it is with them. So it's there, and the information comes into us subliminally, visually, or energetically. It depends upon how we best assimilate the knowledge as to how it comes into us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much.
As it will with you.
It is already. It's a very powerful experience just talking to you. And I know you're very humble in that you're just a regular guy, but you're not, and you are special. And I appreciate everything that you're doing and taking the time.
Just the average Joe, I'm afraid.
Okay.
just an engineer.
Right on. Well, I'll definitely be back in touch with your assistant, and we'll schedule another time for part 2, because I think there's a lot more that I think are.
Yeah, well, don't forget, if you send me a link to the podcast, I can put it on my website, and we can broadcast it from that way, so that you've got a bit more visibility for your stuff as well.
Sounds great, Guy. Really appreciate it. It's a pleasure meeting you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for asking me. It's really an honor.
Thank you so much. Great meeting you. I look forward to the next step.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.